Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blabbin About Batman, the animated series, the podcast that's more entertaining than prison experiments. I'm one of your hosts, the brain tube enthusiast, Bob Mackey, and this is the Talking Simpsons Network's chronological exploration of Batman, the animated series. Who is here with me today, as always?
Henry Gilbert, and I'll do the job for just half a briefcase full of diamonds.
And who is our special guest on the line?
I am the Knight, Daniel Dockery.
And this time around, we're talking about the episode Bane.
Welcome to my arena, Batman. Prepare to meet your master.
And yes, we are once again hijacking the What a Cartoon podcast feed for yet another episode of Blabbin About Batman, the animated series. But we have a really good reason this time, not just because we love Batman, that's a good reason, but we have a special reason because our guest this time around is Daniel Dockery, and he is the author of the upcoming book, I Am the Knight, the ultimate unauthorized history of Batman, the animated series. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Daniel, it's so great to have you. And we had saw you promoting your book on Blue Sky. I think we both were thinking like, oh, this guy would be great to chat with about Batman, the animated series, since that's what we've been doing now for like 6 or 7 years on and off.
Yeah, and Daniel, we have had the pleasure of reading your book in advance, and I can say without a doubt, this is a book especially for listeners to our podcast, because there is a danger when I read a book about something I know a lot about that it'll just be me rereading facts I already know. In this case, you really get into the weeds. When you read Daniel's book, you'll hear so many people complaining about ACOM, something I feel like only we've covered on this podcast. And we have not covered an ACOM episode yet on this podcast miniseries, and there's a very good reason why.
Yeah, it's ACOM kind of loomed over every animator's head. It was a real sword on the neck of like, please don't get an ACOM episode. Oh, it's ACOM. And I have to do cars in this episode too. Oh, come on. So yeah, ACOM, the list of like minute technical things that ACOM couldn't do well is astounding. It's astounding. So.
And then meanwhile, the other side of it, like, is Spectrum was everybody wanted Spectrum, but that's because they over delivered in a way that would like kill them as a company ultimately.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, Daniel, your book is out September 1st, I believe, and it is a very comprehensive history of this series. You do some original interviews, you pull quotes from existing interviews, but you stitch together a really nice, rich tapestry of both the history of the show and what was going on in the world of animation that shows that ultimately our childhoods were the best childhoods anyone could have. If you're a fan of animation.
Absolutely, I agree. And, I originally, I was going to do all Batman, but it kind of felt insincere to do that because there was so much stuff happening at the time in television animation. And so, I was really glad to be able to, kind of create a patchwork quilt of everything that was basically going on in like 1992 and 3.
Yeah, your opening sets up such a great foundation of like, here's how Disney and Warner are both investing much more in television animation by the end of the 80s and start of the 90s. And then as Batman becomes the huge hit, you show the reaction to the industry from Spider-Man, X-Men, Spawn, or Gargoyles, these shows that wouldn't have been greenlit had Batman not been such a big success. And it shows like how singular Batman the animated series is and focuses on that, but also the rippling effect it had on so many other great shows that happened because of it.
Yeah, it really made an impact. And, I tried my best to kind of stay away from like the idea that Batman the animated series was like the only good show that happened during that time. Because I think it's really easy when you're discussing a show in particular to kind of be like, well, this show was special and, the rest was garbage. But I stayed away from that was like, yeah, looking at the ripple effect and kind of seeing like, okay, what is the ecosystem here? What are the changes that aren't just impacting Batman, but like, what is this, sea change that's like making it possible for like X-Men to be like, have good stories or like, for like the Disney afternoon to like have episodes that look really, really good and so on and so forth. Yeah, it was really cool to dive into Batman and tell a story about Batman, but you also use Batman as a representative of like a larger, evolution of animation that like, considering what I see studios doing with animation today, it made me very sad to write the epilogue and have to be like, they're doing their best. The animators, they're trying, but it's hard.
Yeah, we're still waiting. It's been 2 years. We're waiting on those new Cape Crusader episodes. Anytime now, gentlemen. Let's go.
Yep.
Man. Yes, God.
But yes, I want to say that I love all the context you give, Daniel, because this is the era that we're the most obsessed with. It's the era we grew up in. It's the era that we like to study and podcast about. And I especially like how you cover the Mighty Mouse to Tiny Toons to Batman pipeline, just how all of these comedy shows somehow spawned Batman, this very inexplicable project by two guys who seemed like they would not create this kind of a show or be able to run it.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you're talking to like the animators and the writers at the time as they were joining the show, a lot of people's first reaction was like the Tiny Toon people are doing Batman. Like, why would Oh, that's not gonna be very good. And then they saw that Dark Knight's first night promo short. And immediately they were like, "Oh, I want to get on this." Somebody I remember somebody told me that like everybody in the business for a little while either wanted to be on Batman or be on X-Men if they were writing for Saturday morning or weekday afternoon cartoons. And it was, it really did come out of nowhere, because I think people were still getting used to like the Tim Burton overhaul Batman, and like, was that a thing that was going to last? Like, it was a huge blockbuster, but like, could that translate to like other mediums? Are people prepared for that? This is TV Batman, and for the most part, Adam West ruled that landscape for decades. So yeah, there was a lot of apprehension when somebody said, "Hey, we're going to do a Batman cartoon, and we're going to do like this pulpy noir thing that takes the story seriously and kind of like looks at the child audience at eye level and says, 'Hey, we know you can appreciate good stories. We're going to give you good stories.'"
Yeah, I think that it raised the level for so many other shows that had to follow up on it, and to think that it came from guys who like the things they did right before Batman that was the closest to Batman, as you point out in the book, is like Tiny Toon episodes of Bat Duck, and like that the Just Us League of Superheroes that is. Like, that's one of my favorite Dini written ones of Tiny Toons, I think, because it shows that it is about how, like, well, what makes Batman special on the Justice League, which is a question to be answered in real Batman comics, but also they do it through a cartoon character of Plucky Duck trying to join it too.
Yeah, Dini is such a fantastic example of somebody who like realizes the efficacy of a good cartoon. Like few other, if you go back and watch, I guess, Tiny Toon episodes, or even if you go back to like look at his like early 80s work, when he'd done stuff with like Scooby-Doo, like some very Scooby-Doo episodes and all that, he has a spark to it that I think a lot of writers at the time were really burnt out on television. Were really burnt out on like the TV wasteland, as multiple people called it. Where essentially you were just jumping from franchise to franchise and trying to cobble a career together. And I think we're really lucky that like he had such a rejuvenated take on Batman in his episodes of Batman the Animated Series, because a lot of people that were his peers or like worked at the same time were like, "I'm out of this. Can I do anything but writing another Super Friends episode or another TV show that's gonna be forgotten or be underfunded and get wiped out next year?" It's so a lot of the people, a lot of his peers in Batman the Animated Series came from that, where like Batman the Animated Series was kind of a saving grace for their belief that like TV animation could be really good.
So Daniel, any final thoughts about the book before we move into the episode? I know it's out September 1st. Anything else you want to mention about it?
If you're a Batman the Animated Series fan, I'd love for you to pick it up. I think you'll find, even if you know everything about Batman the series, I think it's a good love letter to the show. But also, if you're not a particular Batman the Animated Series fan and you just like animation as a form, I really try to make it as a way to present animation as something necessary, a medium that deserves to exist as more than just like child fodder. So yeah, if you're a fan of Batman series or animation or like earworm Disney afternoon themes, I think you'll find something to enjoy there.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm someone who has listened to every commentary. Henry and I are obsessed with this show, read every article about it. We do this podcast where we do additional research on top of just talking about the episode. And it's always stunning. Like, wow, there are new facts out there. Someone found new facts. And this book is full of them. It's great.
It totally is. Yeah. And it's just so great to see like an appreciation for the Batman the animated series that, you know, it does still deal with like Batman the animated series did sell a ton of toys. Like it was a toy selling cartoon, but it proved like it could also be a great cartoon that told great stories. One and the other, they can exist together. You don't have to throw away good stories to sell a bunch of toys of Batman.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And you know, it's like especially in the early '90s landscape, toy deals were kind of a necessary evil. You know, that's a lot of the money came from merchandisers being like, could you feature like the spider car in an episode or something? But Batman animated series really made it work. And the toys, when you get the toys, like obviously there's like the bat launcher and stuff like that he never once used in the show. But you know, it's finding like a healthy balance.
This is a very small tangent, Daniel. I love that you cover Batman Returns. It's my favorite Batman movie, live action movie.
Mine too.
And I love just because I was a kid, I was 10 at the time when the movie came out. I didn't know about the outrage over this movie and how parents were shocked by the violence and the sex. My mom took me to that movie and we loved it. And she loved how gross the Penguin was. So when I read about other people's reactions, I was like, oh, I didn't live in this world. I lived in the Batman Returns liking world.
Yeah, a lot of those interviews came from like a separate project that never quite like coagulated. But I was happy to use it in there because so much about Batman the Animated Series was like, Batman Returns is going to come out. It's going to make even more money than Batman. And then we're going to make Batman the Animated Series. It's going to be, you know, all the people that watch that are going to like this. And that didn't really happen. They're very like two distinct things. And even like the creators of Batman the Animated Series are like, we didn't really care for that movie very much. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Batman Returns. And I have like a treasure trove of like separate interviews that maybe I'll use one day, maybe I won't. But it was I was really glad to be able to put a section in there and like kind of work it, like make it, you know, make sure they didn't all go to waste and kind of tie it into the fact that like all of a sudden like this big bat mania kind of got stopped in its tracks by like McDonald's being like, we don't want to have anything to do with this anymore unless we can like change the script. So
yes. Yeah, you really learn about how McDonald's really commanded the fate of Batman movies towards the end of the 90s. Yeah. It's great. Well, Daniel, I don't think this is an episode that we would have chosen, so I'm glad you chose it. So why did you select Bane for our subject matter for on this episode?
3 reasons. First of all, Bane is not one of like the well-remembered Batman the Animated Series characters. The Batman the Animated Series characters that people tend to remember are like Mr. Freeze or Harley Quinn or like characters with some deep kind of angsty pathos to them. And Bane in Batman the Animated Series, for creative reasons, is just kind of like a big guy. The second reason is from an era that a lot of people don't necessarily dive into. Like when we think of the classic episodes, we usually think of the first few that showed up on Fox Kids, whether like Heart of Ice or Feet of Clay Part 2, Two-Face Part 1, or we think of like later like Harley Quinn Joker episodes. But Bane comes from their Adventures of Batman and Robin era when stuff was much more like adventure heavy. And the third reason is like you said, I wanted to kind of pick a dark horse candidate because I sometimes find, like I wrote with the book, I sometimes find that there's a lot of rich stuff that you can kind of dive into from an episode that's essentially about Batman facing off against like a lunkhead and like a luchador mask.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess my memories of this episode when I was a kid, I thought it was just kind of goofy. I didn't know who Bane was. Nobody in my school growing up read comics. I never saw a comic book in my school in my life. And I just heard these playground rumors like Superman is dead. Okay. I don't know how to find out more about this. Oh, Batman got his back broken. Who did this? I don't know. So when this Bane guy shows up on the cartoon, I didn't know how recent he had appeared in the comics, and I didn't know he was the guy who did it.
Yeah, this felt like a huge. I was the opposite of Bob in that way. This was a huge event for me because I had read the comics. I got into comics like hardcore in 1992 on the DC side of things with the death of Superman, and they led, the marketing of that led straight into the Nightfall series, and so I knew Bane is like the biggest, baddest, scariest guy. He's the guy who defeated Bruce Wayne Batman and made there be a replacement Batman. So this episode airing the weekend after my 12th birthday, I was so like, I remember thinking the whole time, like, oh my God, the whole series is about to change now. Like, this is the episode where Batman's going to have his back broken. I thought they were going all the way with it. And so I was very tuned into this episode when it first aired, because I thought I was going to see Nightfall happen on the TV show.
Yeah, it was, as we'll probably get into, the creators of the episode were not very fond of Bane. Like, I think, a lot of them personally, their attachment to Batman held from like late 60s and then into the 70s, where they were like, our Batman, Batman the Animated Series is very like kind of noirish, looks very 40s, but a lot of their Batman stories, if they picked any to like adapt for the show, really came from like the Denny O'Neil, like Steve Englehart, that kind of era, and like melding that with like a 1939 1940 looking Gotham was like really unique. But Bane is a very like distinctly new character, and it's very interesting to me to see the ways that they do and don't kind of try to like pulp magazine him up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was I first saw Bane, I think it was this cartoon, but I also saw like a poster in a comic shop. One of the first comic shops I went to had the big poster, the big full drawing of Bane cracking Batman over his knee. And I was like, who is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And like, I remember talking to people at the comic shop, I was like a little kid and they were like, Bane, he's flash in the pan. He'll be out of here soon enough. So it was very, I had a very mixed reaction to Bane, because I wanted him to be super, super awesome. And then the people I talked to, it was a mix of like, yeah, he's great, or like, he ruined the storyline or whatever.
Yeah, it turns out that the characters created with not a lot of thought, like Mr. Freeze, end up being reinvented much later as more exciting creations. And then when you start off with, we're going to make the coolest guy ever, it doesn't really pan out as much.
I mean, as I get older now, I can see it from like Bruce Timm and Kevin Altier's viewpoint is of like, as I get older and a new comic book character, like I'll even just say a Batman, like a new Batman villain shows up. And if I don't think he's cool because he was written to impress, today's 12-year-olds, but I don't think he's cool, I would probably write a story about like how Joker's way better than Hush. Hush is stupid. Like, that would be the story I would write, just to degrade that character. Though I think Hush has some good qualities to him, and Paul Dini actually found some cool stuff to do with Hush. Yeah. But I digress. The Bane that I now can see the same. It reminds me too of like in Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi film. In my opinion, I don't think he gives a shit about Venom. He didn't grow up with Venom. He got Venom foisted upon him, and that's why Venom doesn't really work too well in Spider-Man 3, because Sam Raimi grew up with the 60s comics. He's a Silver Age guy and didn't care about Venom. A similar, like, well, actually he's a late 80s villain, but he's like the Bane of Spider-Man, and he didn't give a crap about having Venom in his thing. It seems similar to me to how Bruce Timm, especially in some of the quotes in your book, felt about Bane.
So a little bit more about Bane. This is really a hot off the press episode because Bane was a fairly new and really hot character at the time. So this animated series predates him by about 3 months, although the lead up to his big debut in the comics started around the same time as this series, I believe fall of 1992. And he's gotten a lot of play over the last 33 years, and I think he mostly exists in the form of bad Tom Hardy impressions. I really feel like the legacy of those Christopher Nolan movies are either Batman impressions or Bane impressions, and I feel like those have fallen out of fashion probably since around the time of COVID. So thankfully, we're not hearing that anymore. And it's hard on a podcaster's voice to talk like Bane and Batman from those movies.
Yes, it's very hard. I almost tried.
I think you're getting into a Yoda area there, Henry.
I was born in the pit. No, man, that's hard. It's hard.
Yes, Batman. Like, it's one of those. It's like you got to start with a Connery and find your way out of it.
It's very different than the South American roots of the character in this episode, I would say, and from the comics too.
So yes, Vengeance of Bane was in January of 1993, but he made a much bigger splash in the Nightfall comic arc, which was from April 93 to August 94 in a few different comics. This episode debuts right after that wraps up, and of course, I'm also counting the two following arcs, Night Quest and Night's End. And if you want to read these for yourself, they are compiled into like 3 giant volumes that probably you should just buy digitally like I did, because I don't know those when I'm reading the giant book, I don't know where to put the corner.
Yes.
It's always the most upsetting part of reading those giant books.
They're huge. The original. Now, again, when I read them as a kid, I had never seen a thing like, just like I didn't know Superman could die. Like, this was an event for me, and the storyline of Bane Bane breaks out everybody from Arkham Asylum, and Batman has to fight like all of his villains at once. He is exhausted and pushed to the brink, and then Bane confronts him in his home, so he also has discovered his secret identity. And then Batman, who has he's pushed to the edge, is easily defeated by Bane and has his back broken and is then like tossed away. And then it takes a new Batman to have to come in, who has like a cool machine gun batarangs and stuff like that, and with a total redesign. Like, I thought as well, it was like, oh, this is the new Batman. I guess Bruce Wayne's not Batman anymore. It's this new guy. It's going to be Azrael from now on.
Yeah, I guess the story is that the Batman writers didn't know about what they were going to do with Superman. So the death of Superman is happening around the same time, or like right before. It was a trend to really brutalize our superheroes in the early 90s, and maybe they were feeling the heat of this new upstart Image Comics. They decided, like, let's make things a little darker. Let's push the stakes a little further. Who knows? But these things are happening around the same time. There's a new Batman. There's 5 new Supermen?
Yeah, it was the reign of the Superman. It was full.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, it was a huge like marketing push. Same to have like, it also was the launch of like a solo Robin series starring Tim Drake Robin as well. That was big for me as a kid. Like, so yeah, when this Bane episode got promoted, I thought it was going to be the same. And this, yeah, they like take some pages out of the stuff, but it took me back to just that feeling of the validation it felt then that I now am very used to. But back then, seeing recent comics get adapted into cartoons, like seeing like other examples I thought of were like, oh, when Carnage appeared in the Spider-Man 94 series, or when there was a Deadpool tiny cameo in X-Men 92. Like, those are things like, wow, these are comics that are like, I read their first appearances, and now they're being validated by being in a cartoon. Like, now everything I have read as a kid has been a cartoon and a movie, but it felt fresh and novel then.
And Bane is the creation of writer Chuck Dixon, who is the most prolific Batman writer of the 90s, and also the artist Graham Nolan. And if you're wondering what inspired the look of Bane, here's a quote from Nolan. So, quotes, Chuck came up with the idea of an evil Doc Savage. So when I had to design the character, I started with Doc Savage. I figured he had a costume. What would he be exposed to living where he was living? So I gravitated towards a Mexican luchador, and that's how this look came up. And I guess some important context is that these folks are baby boomers, and they grew up with the El Santo movies, or at least the dubs of them. So I believe a lot of them they called the character Samson in the English language dubs, but this is a world that we were not really familiar with as kids, unless we were watching like one episode of Mystery Science Theater from 1994.
Yeah, it reads as a very whenever I think of Bane's origin in Batman animated series, like it's very very kind of like Weird Tales to me. It always, like, again, like the Doc Savage era, it reads as very like if Robert Howard had invented Bane. It's a little, obviously a lot of Bane origins over the years have kind of gone back to that, like, super soldier. It's kind of sad. He gets strong. He goes to find Batman. I always, I think the creators of Batman animated series, even if they're not like huge fans of Bane, they're like really trying to like, okay, like, what if Bane was invented in like 1941? Like, how exactly would that have gone up? I also think the El Santo, the charismatic hero luchador, plays a big part into it. So,
yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel. I believe this was Bruce Timm's idea to include Bane in this new run of episodes, presumably because he was popular and they wanted to have a relevant new character to draw on viewers. Is that true?
Yeah, over the years, the exact reason why Bane was shown up is kind of murky, but like, I think the direct quote was, "We did Bane under duress." And so, yeah, it was, I don't think they would have done Bane had somebody, had been like, "Oh, Bane is very popular right now. You need to put Bane in the show."
Yeah, maybe it was an executive who told Bruce Timm, you're including Bane, and he passed that down to his staff and said, we're doing Bane, let's figure out Bane. And I guess you can see how they're zigging where Nightfall zagged. Batman is not, his spine is not shattered, and they're having more fun with the goofball elements of Bane because ultimately they want you to take Bane very seriously, but it's hard to because, I mean, all the Batman villains are ridiculous, but he is a luchador. And there's just something very silly about seeing that in this film noir world, which is why they decide to basically turn his fight with Batman into a wrestling match at the end of this episode. And we'll get to it. But I just feel like they see this grimdark character and decide to have fun with him, while including a lot of dark elements of like the body horror of what the Venom is doing to him.
Well, and also like, yeah, it is also built on the late 80s, early 90s, steroid abuse that was going on big time then. Not that steroids have gone away, but especially like you would see it in pro wrestling or bodybuilding or a lot of professional sports that people were using, human growth hormones or other things. And so here is like Mr. Steroids. So it makes him like a villain for the 90s. And the feel I was getting from reading in your book interviews with Tim and Altieri, it's like this roided out guy, he's the one who gets to break Batman's back. It's not like one of the cool old villains, some new guy who just takes a bunch of drugs. Like that's it. Like that's why his defeat is so built around steroids. And I think of that even in the Arkham games, like the Dini rights, especially, or the first one, like Bane in that is just he is all muscle and no brain, like, and he's basically like the Rhino in a Spider-Man game. You got to dodge and take out his pipeline of steroids.
Bane is really designed to be a video game boss fight. You can see it in this episode. Yes. He has one little weak point you have to hit.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to it later, but it's very much like I can tell how much they really enjoyed like the making him bigger and bigger and bigger until like he essentially almost explodes. They do the same. They beat like a bad guy. I think they beat a bad guy the same way in Batman Beyond during that steroid episode. I think it's the coach, and they knock him into like the patches,
right?
And he gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's once again a horrifying 30 seconds of children's television when he overdoses on it. But yeah, it's Bane in their show was basically meant to like jump, dodge, hits the generators, throw a batarang, jump, dodge, hit the generators, throw a batarang, and until you beat him. So,
though I will compliment the not Rocksteady Arkham game, Arkham Origins. Bob, you've played it too, where I think they give Bane a little more of a brain and pathos. Like he actually is. He isn't just a roided out monster, which is what I like about Bane. That Chuck Dixon, one of his co-creators, like who is a very good Batman writer. I won't talk about his politics, but very good Batman writer, and that his Bane is like is a thinking man. He actually is supposed to be a mental equal to Batman too, not just a physical one.
Yeah, I will say, don't sleep on Arkham Origins. It's very good. It's not ever included in those the Arkham Trilogy collection, but the whatever team made it, I'm not sure. I forget who it was. They did an adequate job, above adequate, let's say. I had a really good time with the 20 or 30 hours I spent with that game.
Likewise, aside from one time I glitched out and got stuck in a phone booth, or got stuck in the side of a phone booth while during a fight. Other than that, Origins I think is super underrated.
Yeah, that's just a hazard of playing any open world game. You're gonna get stuck in geometry every once in a while, and you just got to deal with it. Make sure you save a lot, is what I'm saying. So Daniel, we normally cover the writer and director of the episode in question, but we already covered these two guys. So this is a repairing of Kevin Altieri and Mitch Bryan, who were the duo who put together the pilot episode essentially of the show on Leather Wings. And Mitch Bryan, he left the show after helping develop the story Bible. He comes back to write this. And I want to know, Daniel, we've already covered these guys, but do you have any insight into these two men based on all of the research you've done for your book?
So Kevin Altieri is one of, there were a lot of great adventure cartoon directors that came through, but it's hard to think of a better action cartoon director at that time than Kevin Altieri. He's stellar at it. He was good whenever he was granted limitations. He was good when they kind of let him go all out and didn't so much have to worry about the budget for an episode. He was just fantastic, and he really hailed from an era where adventure cartoons had kind of died down for a few years. And he thrived so much when they were just like, okay, we need you to create these big, moody set pieces and these big climactic battles, that represent some huge thematic duel between like Batman and his fellow angsty villain. And he was just fantastic at it. And, I think it's a shame that Mitch Bryan kind of left the show, because he's a really good writer, and he's especially good at kind of taking villains that you're not quite sure about. Like a lot of people did not know who Man-Bat was when the show started, mainly because Batman villains tend to be typified by the 60s series. So if they weren't like, Joker, Penguin, Riddler, or Catwoman, it was like a toss-up whether you recognize them if you were in the general audience and didn't read comic books. But from his treatment of Man-Bat, you get Man-Bat. With his treatment of Bane, it's a very specific kind of, I don't remember if it was Altieri or Mitch Bryan who said that kind of take the piss out of Bane. He developed something iconic out of that. You'd be like, okay, I see why he was popular. This episode doesn't exactly use him to like, the full extent like the comics go with, and doesn't really turn into like an event level villain, but he was really good at organizing and creating dramatic episodes built around characters that were like, okay, there are millions of kids that have no idea who this is. Go.
Yeah. I think we personally might have underrated on Leatherwings because we waited a very long time to cover it on this miniseries, and then we were both blown away by it. It sets a tone that's much darker than the series that would follow, but still, it's an important like statement saying this is what our show is about. It's not the Adam West show. It's something much darker. There's some blood. There's a scary monster. There's a lot of darkness. This is our take on Batman, period.
Daniel, in your book, your chats with Mitch Bryan or the quotes from him about the development, it gave me a new appreciation for him. Not just we knew him from covering on Leather Wings. It's like, oh, he's one of the first writers and wrote the pilot, but that he was such a part of like the original conception of it was, and that he then comes back, years into the show's production to work in this, second batch of episodes on Fox for this one. It's an interesting timing. And yeah, that Leather Wings is such, like when we covered it too, another thing I liked in the writing of it was that it subverted your expectations with good writing too, that they give you such an obvious villain or potential like the older doctor, and it is just like, bats are so much better than people. I love bats. That you're just supposed to think it's him because you're thinking, oh, this is like a dumb Scooby-Doo type show.
Yeah.
And when it's not that guy, it to me it read as like Mitch Bryan's script saying like, we're smarter than that. We're not just going to give you the obvious villain every time like the other cartoons would.
Yeah, and Mitch, I think one reason I was really glad to have him chat with me for the book is that he knew Bruce Timm beforehand. Like they creatively worked together before. I think it was, they'd done like short films together. He'd wanted, I don't remember if it was Doc Savage or The Shadow, but they'd wanted to buy the rights to one of those guys and like create something out of it. So he'd spent years kind of dreaming of having like a Batman the Animated Series as show where like, okay, finally you can, you don't have to worry about the limitations of like budget, or not necessarily budget, but like of special effects, or not having big blockbuster support. You can do these big grand, stories. And if you're capable of kind of like threading the needle of doing it and also making like fantastic children's entertainment, you can really thrive and create something that's really profound and inspiring.
And speaking of Altieri, he's the director of this episode. I was shocked, Daniel, to see a discussion of Spawn in your book, and also delighted because that's a Batman-inspired cartoon that a lot of people forgot because it was on a paid channel. And I recently watched one of the episodes on Crave in Canada, and I enjoyed what I saw, but it was a clear case of like other people failing Kevin Altieri and his team, because you could see like the storyboarding is there, but it's either like miscommunications with an overseas studio, or an overseas studio that can't really do this, or HBO not allowing retakes. You can see just how this show in particular was just everything working the way it should, except for ACOM. But on that end, it was like, well, a lot of things failed, and that's why Spawn is not remembered in the same terms as this show.
Yeah, Spawn. I rewatched the show for it. I talked to Eric Radomski, who was kind of put in charge of starting HBO Animation and their kind of failed endeavor to be like, oh, we're going to have cartoons too. That show just drips with atmosphere. And Keith David delivers like probably my favorite. Like there's a lot of favorite Keith David performances because the guy like doesn't miss. But Spawn and like this like just anguish with like every line he has is so good, and the show looks so good when it's still.
Yes.
And then as soon as the show has to move, it depends on the episode you're watching. Like sometimes like in season 2, you'd be like, wow, that episode was really good. But sometimes the show just kind of looks like it'd be better if it was like really cool Spawn fan art. But yeah, it's a shame that that show didn't end it so kind of collapsed like it did, because it had the chance to be a really good show. And from the behind the scenes stories, as soon as they kind of reined in Todd McFarlane to kind of like work with animation rather than like trying to do his grand visions of retooling and like remaking the wheel, the show had a lot of potential, and it's a shame that it kind of fell short in a lot of ways.
Yeah, in terms of the animation, it's a nice reminder of why the elegant designs in this series really help in terms of making up for any of the mistakes that can happen in the animation process. When you're asked to replicate like Spawn's incredibly complicated cape over and over and over again through tens of thousands of frames, there's going to be some slip-ups, there's going to be some inconsistencies, and that's why these very sleek designs work so well.
Yeah, it's as Alan Burnett had, I taught Alan Burnett, he gave me a very, very cool lesson in like not only like the lines of dialogue that a character needs to have before an audience loses interest, but the lines that like a character model needs to have, and how like you gotta pay attention to what can move efficiently, because a lot of people, if they don't know, they might design with like oh, this looks cool, but you got to think, does this look cool when it's like standing in an action figure pose, or are animators going to be able to create this and not have it look like cardboard on the back of a like popsicle stick running across the screen? Like, is it actually going to look good in motion? And luckily, Batman the Animated Series, when they had really solid animators or a really solid animation studio backing them, they were able to create really cool stuff that didn't like sacrifice like character iconography for motion, even if it meant doing away with a few like ab lines.
Yeah, I mean, like Henry and I are big fans of the X-Men 90s series, but that's kind of a difficult show to return to, because you forget often how appallingly ugly it looks, especially, again, when it's moving, which is why I'm glad Disney put out that X-Men 97 show, I think maybe 2 years ago at this point. And it's like, okay, finally, an X-Men show with good animation. This has never happened before. Maybe X-Men Evolution, that was pretty good, yes. But like a standard X-Men show with good animation.
Animation to fit the level of the writing, finally to meet it. Same with the Spider-Man 94 show that we've covered too, that like the John Semper and his team wrote the good stories that adapted good Spider-Man comics, and they even were working with TMS, one of the best animation studios that worked with Warner, but they were at TMS on like low budget, like they were like highly digital TMS, and like, oh, we can just reuse the same shot of Spider-Man swinging like every episode, no kid will notice. Like I won't blame TMS for it. It was like just a cheaper production, like trying to cut corners like in ways that Batman would not do. Like even this episode is a Dong Yang, which they're one of they're good but not the best studio, but I think like Altieri's like posing and in direction in this shines through. Like there's some great Batman and poses in this one that Dong Yang pulls off very well.
Yeah, he gets a lot out of like Bane poses in this. Bane looks like gigantic. He really gets across how imposing Bane looks, which makes it all the better when at the end they just kind of throw this like boyish face on like Rupert Thorne's table. It's a really cool like this was your guy, but the whole episode he looks really cool. Yeah, Altieri, he got a lot out of potentially risky animation situations. I want to say about X-Men though, it was very like talking to some of the folks behind that, included the Lawalds who served as showrunners for it. A lot of people, if they don't necessarily go like find it in interviews, they'll like kind of like concoct like, oh, X-Men and Batman, the teams hated each other, or like, oh, Gargoyles was just a Batman ripoff. And I was like, well, I've heard that for 20 years. I'm going to talk to the guy who made Gargoyles and ask him about it. So that was really cool. But it's cool talking to the X-Men team and talking to the hires and them being like, knew we were not going to make something as beautiful as Batman. We did not have their budget, but we could make a different kind of story. And I think X-Men really excels in that. And I think it's for the same reason that Batman the Animated Series kind of became a generation's view of like what Batman is. That's why X-Men, like to this day, even in different like mediums, when people think of X-Men from the 90s, they're usually thinking of the X-Men comic or the X-Men, the Animated Series, not the comics, not the films that, they're all trying to in the way that Batman kind of solidified a lot of character traits from Batman villains and so on. X-Men did the same thing, but I don't think it's just talked about as much.
That's for sure. And you mentioned Spider-Man in your book. We've been talking a little bit about that animated series, and you do identify how blazingly fast those episodes move.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it was a cartoon I was not familiar with. And when we covered it on the show, I was just laughing at how quickly characters just like change emotions. Like a Spider-Man is like, I don't want to be Spider-Man anymore. Okay, now I do. 10 seconds pass. So we have to move on to the next story.
No, it's true. But like, if you watch like the first episode is pretty good. The Night of the Lizard episode, it's a pretty good Lizard episode. Lizard is a great character to start with. It gives a mystery. It gives, a foe that's stronger than Spider-Man, but not smarter than Spider-Man. So Spider-Man can like outsmart him. It does everything it should. But then you get to like the Spider Slayers episodes, and those episodes are on like fast forward. Like, it's just like, oh man, Alistair Smite's like, oh man, my dad Spencer died. Kingpin shows up. Oh, come with me. Okay, cool. And it just snowballs. I like a lot of the stories in Spider-Man because they're very economical recreations of like longer comic book stories. Like when we think of like the alien suit story, if you read the comics, that story lasts forever. Spider-Man like gets it, and then he like works through like its powers for a long time, and everybody else in the Marvel universe has to be like, this is weird, right? And then it's only a little bit later that like the main attribute of the alien symbiote, that it's like warping him, comes into play. And then Eddie Brock and Venom, Spider-Man the Animated Series really makes it clear, like, nope, it's three things: alien suit, leaving alien suit, Venom, boom, boom, boom. 3 episodes. It's a trilogy. And I think Spider-Man, as fast as it goes, was really good cutting away like some of the indefinite comic book storytelling fluff that accrues over the years. Isn't necessarily bad. It's just a nature of the medium, and really making it so that like kids, if you watch that show, you can recite what Venom does. You can recite how the Spider Slayers are supposed to appear, or how Venom, or not how Venom, how Lizard is supposed to appear, or how Kingpin is supposed to appear.
Yeah, I don't think I give the show enough credit as a kid. This is going to break Henry's heart. I think he knows this, but I thought Spider-Man was stupid. And I thought, well, why would you watch this guy instead of watching Batman? Just watch Batman. He's got everything. It's great.
It was. Yeah, I now that you mentioned Venom and his thing about Bane at the same time, they have so many similarities in that they're both like the defining 90s, like early 90s villain, but also like Venom is Spider-Man on steroids. Like, he is a gigantic bodybuilder shape, and same of like the black and white tones of him are the same as the black and white tones of Venom. Even his eyes are similar, like white eyes on the mask style. But yes, they go so fast in the Spider-Man series. When we did the Mysterio episode, like Mysterio beats Spider-Man, and like, yeah, I think it was like within 60 seconds, it's like the news says Spider-Man, he's dead. I love Mysterio. And then Peter Parker goes, well, I'll never be Spider-Man again. Then he turns a corner in his house, and a character tells him, but don't you remember how Uncle Ben died? I do remember that. I'm going to be Spider-Man forever. Boom.
Yeah, it's like somebody hit speed up on the podcast player, but it's an animated series.
Yes.
Well, I guess we should get into the episode itself. So this episode is part of the Adventures of Batman and Robin run, which I believe is underrated in my estimation, because we've covered a lot of these. And actually, the episode that follows this one in the run is Baby Doll, which is probably in my top 5, possibly top 3. That episode kills me. And that's another great Paul Dini episode.
It's fantastic. I love that episode. I would have chosen that one, but I knew I wanted to choose something from the Adventures of Batman and Robin, and it was going to be either Bane, Baby Doll, or Sideshow.
Yeah. No. This one is from such a good run of things. Like, we also covered, I think, another Adventures ones we did the Trial and Harley's Holiday. Like, those were both also great ones that were like kind of a reaction to the first season. Like, I love, that's something I really enjoy about the Adventures of Batman and Robin season, is that they now see what was popular or what critics were saying, or can react to what were popular comics during the first run. In this case, like, the Trial is about how people said, isn't Batman just as crazy as the people he locks up? So they have an answer for that in the Trial episode. In Harley's Holiday, they're like, well, maybe Harley isn't so bad, and maybe what if she was away from the Joker? Maybe she'd be good. And this one, it's like, well, okay, what if the Bane who breaks Batman's back in the comics, what if he faced the animated series Batman? Could he do the same thing? It's answering a similar question that at least were happening on my schoolyards, of like, well, the Batman in the cartoon show, he wouldn't get beat by Bane. No way.
Cartoons can't be killed unless you have dip. That's why.
He'll let you have two.
Harley's, yeah, I like the example of Harley's Holiday because it's very like reflective of like changing attitudes toward Harley Quinn. Like when they invent Harley Quinn, they're like, oh, this is so funny. It's like the Joker's gun mall. She's just kind of like around and he's mean to her and she's just like, oh, my pudding. But then you write a few episodes of that like Paul Dini did and he's like, I feel kind of bad about it. So he created something like Harley's Holiday to kind of finish the arc of like, okay, she doesn't need the Joker anymore. She's her own person. You know, she's tailor-made for the 1,000 spinoffs she's going to get after this. It was really, you know, it really showed that like even the people on the team were like, I don't want to do the same character the same way again. Mm-hmm. We have to do it a new way.
So this episode kicks off with the Adventures of Batman and Robin intro. Now, I'm dying to know what Daniel thinks of this because my stance has always been you cannot beat the original Batman the Animated Series intro. It's perfect. It's one of the best animated intros of all time. The music is great. The animation is great. This is a clip show, but the one thing I do prefer about this is that it contains Shirley Walker's theme for Batman from the series, which you hear constantly, the bum, 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 that theme, where you never hear Danny Elfman's Batman theme in the cartoon. It is just attached to the beginning. It is connective tissue between Batman Returns and the series.
I love that theme. Even if you go find them on Spotify, and you go to the Batman the Animated Series like score, like the multi-CD, it's like 8 different CDs, I think. But at the end of each one, they include like snippets of like Shirley Walker talking to her orchestra and stuff. And there's one track, I'll try to find it, where she talks about the fact that she does the bum, 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 bum. And depending on how she plays it a bunch of different times during the show. She can make it triumphant, like bum, 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 or like sad, bum, 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 bum.
Wow.
You know, and it's really, really fascinating. And there's one clip where they're celebrating an Emmy win, and it's very like heartwarming. But I've never seen anyone talk about the fact that like they're just kind of nestled in between this terrific score is like her talking to the orchestra and like having kind of a dialogue with like the people that she's working with and obviously really cares about. The clip show stuff I can kind of take or leave. What I always thought was weird is like I don't think there's any villains in it. So it's just kind of like Batman and Robin kind of reacting to like cars coming by or like water or jumping off a cliff.
Running from explosions. Yeah.
Yeah. If you watch it, there's no like Joker or like Penguin or anybody in it. It's just them having a day. But yeah, I really like that theme. As a clip show, I could take it or leave it. A very standard clip show. But I love the fact that like, if you would watch the show and you weren't aware of like the fact that like the bum 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 is playing so constantly, you finally got a chance of like, okay, here's the theme in its full grand glory.
The clip show opening uses like almost every good shot they had of Robin from the first run of episodes because it like in the first 65 and Phantasm, it felt like Robin was more foisted upon them at times, like oh well, it's like I think to me a lot of episodes felt more like they were comfortable with Batman is a solo act, but in this season, like Robin is usually partnered with Batman in most episodes of this season, including this episode.
Yeah, I don't want to be reductive, but it feels like sometimes they're stuck with Robin. In this case, it does feel like he is there to ask questions and be kidnapped. So this is probably a less effective use of Robin, unless you like seeing him with shirt off, and then in that which case you're good.
Yes.
Oh yeah, if you're into shirtless college student Robin, he is. This episode number 1. But no, I remember talking to Ty Templeton, who wrote like the Batman Adventures comics for a little bit, and he had a very like positive view of Robin as being like again like I did not. When I asked these people questions, sometimes you get, as y'all know from interviewing people, sometimes people have been asked questions so many times that they kind of give you the Cliff Note versions of it. Mm-hmm. You never know what you're going to get. But Ty had these like very detailed, profound kind of answers of like him. Gave me this long paragraphs about like a Robin is necessary because he serves as like the audience's like Greek chorus or something. I think it was where he's like, constantly the audience surrogate of like, if it's just Batman, eventually you're going to have to, and like the visual storytelling doesn't do it. Eventually somebody's going to have to explain something. Somebody's going to have to monologue.
Yeah.
But if you have Robin there, Robin could be like, what's the deal, Batman? And Batman will just tell him, and then you can move on. And I'm both pro, I'm not like someone who thinks that like, oh, Robin ruins Batman. But Batman the Animated Series is one of those shows that kind of makes me like, he works either way. He can be by himself. But if Robin's around, it's not going to hurt anything. Robin's kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah. you could tell in some episodes like this one, and maybe the one I can think of is Baby Doll. Robin is not that important. It's just like, oh, another guy who could be in the fights. But then there are more essential Robin episodes, even in the first run where he's really downplayed, like the of course Robin's Reckoning Part 1 and 2, the Scarecrow episode, things like that.
Fear of Victory, yeah.
And yes, we do this show basically annually now after doing about 25 episodes. And whenever we come back to it, I'm always stunned by just how light these episodes are on dialogue. I feel like these episodes have about 40% of the dialogue that was in a normal cartoon at the time, maybe like 30 or 25%, because we don't get any dialogue until the 2-minute mark. And Batman doesn't talk for a very long time. We don't really see him for the longest time here because this is all very visual. We start off at the Gotham airport. A plane lands. We see this woman with dark hair and a wry smile on her face waiting for whoever's going to emerge from the plane. And you know she's trouble because she's obviously like a 40s style femme fatale. And she's got these two classic Batman goons leaning against a car. One's got a toothpick on his mouth. It's a classic like gangster style limo. And you might forget you've seen this character before. I forgot that she played a role in an earlier episode. So even if you don't remember who she is, it's clear like she's trouble immediately.
Yeah, she first appears in the Two-Face origin two-parter, which you go into detail a bit in your book on that one. We haven't covered that one yet, Daniel, but you made I saw you make this point on Blue Sky as well. But like, what a major moment that last shot of Two-Face is in the part 1 of the Two-Face story, and how they build up. They actually like set up Harvey Dent as a character in the show in the early episodes. So you, with a small bit of continuity, which they don't normally have in kids cartoons back then.
Yeah, Batman the Animated Series, it's not like a big serialization heavy show. And I think sometimes every once in a while people kind of knock it for not having like each episode is like, connected. But if you watch the show and you watch like whether you're watching like the production order or like the TV airing order, characters are changing and they reference times in the past and they make little nods to like something, and the background stuff will appear, or like side characters will show up, like Carl Rosum, the guy who invents the robots, shows like back up and he's like, Batman, what do you need again? He shows up a few times to basically be like,
right.
What is it now? Did another robot happen? So it's there's I like the fact that they brought her back after that Two-Face episode. But yeah, that Two-Face episode ends with such a stunning kind of series defining image of like him not being the monster, but him being embarrassed by the monster he's kept inside now in full view of everyone. I really like that. It really kind of explains this, kind of the show in a nutshell of their mission statement for villains.
And we still don't really get any dialogue as people are walking off the plane. They're trying to sell just how huge Bane is by showing a few regular people deplaning, and then his hulking frame like ducks down, emerges from the plane. It is a kind of a ridiculous sight because he is wearing a luchador mask, but he's got a suit and a hat. I believe he's also got a hat on, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's the most that he feels like El Santo that at least you see in the movies, of like, because he isn't always walking around in his full costume, like his wrestling luchador costume in the movies. El Santo, he does wear a business suit but still has the mask on doing interviews, and so that's like how Bane first appears here, which is such a great funny thing. It'd be more ridiculous if he was just wearing his full costume with the exposed steroid line on a luxury jet, but it's funnier to just have this 8-foot tall hulking monster wearing a mask walk out.
And you can see this woman, we'll know her as Candace very soon, but she's in control of these two guys she's with. She snaps into attention. They help Bane with his luggage, which is very heavy. One guy just falls over trying to pick it up. And the woman who's now seated in the limo says, "You really can't get good help these days." And yes, this is Candace. And I feel like the episode is really more about her. Maybe that just shows the disdain these guys have for Bane, the team here, because this episode is wholly about her trying to take over the Rupert Thorne empire using Bane as a convenient stooge.
I think it really reflects them being like, Bane couldn't possibly be like the mastermind of this episode.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a wider story going on where he's kind of like the glorified help. I kind of like it, if only because like eventually, like, you know, you'd see so many people try to take down Rupert Thorne during the series, like in Batman does it, that you'd be like, I could knock this guy off.
Yeah.
This could be mine one day.
It's funny in the movies, that is kind of where they go with in the Batman and Robin movie. They had very little. It seemed even more so foisted upon them of like, well, Bane is also in this movie that has too many villains.
I forgot he was in the movie,
Yes,
Henry, completely.
Well, in that he is just like a big dumb idiot who is the muscle protecting Poison Ivy. So a woman is controlling him there too. And, you know, not to spoil too much, but Dark Knight Rises, but also Bane is not the main plotter of that plan either. Like, it actually is like a scheming woman behind it there too. So it's funny, and the only really in the comics is Bane. In the original comics, is Bane like the guy planning everything, and he's the brains and the brawn.
And they keep trying to sell how huge Bane is before we even get to see his face, because he has to squeeze out of this plane. His luggage is very heavy. I assume his clothes are heavy, or he's got a lot of venom in that suitcase. And then when he sits in the car, it like sinks down on its shock. So he's a big, big guy. But finally, about 2 minutes in, we get our first conversation between Bane and this mystery woman. Let's hear it.
I understand your help is the very best money can buy. You see, I'm the one who had you hired.
Then I owe you something special. This particular assignment is one from which I would derive exquisite pleasure, Miss...
Call me Candace.
Call me Bane.
Come on, boss. Hit it again. Again. Come on, boss. No wonder Batman's running rings around you.
Just can't get good help these days.
So I have heard.
Candace, when Jake here comes around, tell him he's fired. Now let's do a little business, Mr. Bane. They'll never pin it on me, but that little fiasco cost me an easy 10 mil.
So, yes, we have Diane Michelle as Candace. I do want to cover a few of these voice actors that we haven't covered yet. And so this is not her first episode. She's also in the Two-Face two-parter, which we did talk about earlier. But she was not like an old TV star they hired, like a lot of these Batman actors. She is a real workhorse of a voice actress. Not a whole lot of recurring roles, but she mostly plays one-off characters in a variety of shows and video games. And I did want to read a little quote from her IMDb page, which shows that she is perfect for this series. And it's one of these quotes where you feel like it was either written by her or her agent, but that's great because I wouldn't have this information otherwise. So, quote, in 1984, Michelle formed the Goyles, a group of 3 singers in World War II uniforms who emulate the Andrews Sisters, but include jazz, swing, and popular tunes in their repertoire. The group has appeared on the Queen Mary in Long Beach and spent 1 year as resident performers in Las Vegas's New York, and toured Japan 4 times. End quote. I don't know if the Goyles are still around, but I feel like if you were in a band called the Goyles, you were immediately cast on this show as a film noir babe.
Oh man, there is no way that Paul Dini did not see them perform on the Queen Mary. That had to have happened. I have to bet on that.
2 things I like about that stuck out. First of all, I like the fact that you kind of give like a foundation for Candace want to betray, because if Rupert Thorne is like that like easy to like fire his like employees, like eventually she's gonna like piss him off enough that like her head's on the chopping block.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you're probably gonna bring it up, but Bane is voiced by Henry Silva.
Oh yeah,
Henry Silva is amazing. I actually don't know if Bane was the first time I saw him perform in something. If you've ever watched this 1980 movie called Alligator, Henry Silva plays like the hunter that they hire, and like he's introduced by like giving this like really like sensual like example of like an alligator mating call to this like starstruck reporter, and then like the script, which is written by the ever reliable John Sayles, like really flips it because you think he's going to be like the Quint of the movie, and then he like gets drunk and tries to hire like some like street kids to like take him to the alligator, like where the alligator was seen in the alley. He gets eaten immediately. He's like in the mood for 4 minutes.
Oh,
but whenever I think of like Bane's like pseudo like sultry voice here, which he does more than he does like his intimidating voice, I always think of like Henry Silva doing like in an alligator mating call sounds like, and like the lady is like, oh my God, Mr. Silva.
We could talk about him before going back to the episode. So it feels like an unlikely choice for Bane, but it works so well because this is an actor like probably in his 60s at this point, because he just passed away in 2022 at the age of 95. Henry Silva had a really good run outside of playing Bane twice on this cartoon. And in case you're wondering, he is of Sicilian and Spanish descent, while Bane is from a fake Caribbean island. That's what my history discovered.
Yes, yeah, that's fair to say. At least getting somebody who can speak Spanish, I believe, though from a Castilian background, perhaps not American, but still that is something. He's Silva's background. Like I now want to watch that alligator movie because I've have a new appreciation for John Sales's. Like I just watched Piranha for the first time last year, and sounds similar. But that Silva comes from like he's like an actor's studio student with like Ben Gazzara and Shelley Winters. Like I feel he is like probably a 2-pack a day smoker, and he's having in his 60s having to scream so much as Bane in this. I feel for him here.
There's a lot of screaming in the third act, and yes, he worked in Hollywood as early as 1952. He's one of the original Ocean's 11. And at the time, I guess he was viewed as ethnically ambiguous. So like a lot of actors with darker skin and darker hair and certain features, he often played Korean, Japanese, and indigenous characters. Like Henry Silva I believe he is the Korean spy in The Manchurian Candidate. So that was the style at the time. I'm sure there. If you look at his IMDb, I'm sure he played like almost every race. That's just what they did.
Yes, it was a different time.
Yeah.
It was a different time. Yes, yeah.
I don't think he was on F Troop though, so I think he dodged that bullet.
No, it's I got it. So he is very good. I think he's very good casting as Bane. He plays him as like a cool Lothario at first, like which I think makes his like downfall. How's Krusty put it? If it only works if the guy's got dignity. Like he needs to start with dignity, right?
It's very El Santo as well. Like if you go back to watch an El Santo movie, he's like charming and like good at chess, and like women adore him. Is right. Very like, I think it's, the more I think about the El Santo thing, the more there's a connection there, because he's very much like, that's a very El Santo character.
Yeah, and there's also we're talking about him sort of like as a sexy character, or like a sophisticated character, somebody like a woman would fall for in this context. And clearly Candace, I mean, she's playing him for a sap. She's trying to use him, but I think there's some attraction there, or some attempt at seduction, because we get the very like classic movie sexy leg cross when he enters the car. This is Saturday morning. They can only do so much. But then there's a line later from Thorne saying, "This is my secretary. You can use her." So I feel like maybe Thorne might have other implications there. Like, well, of course, I loan out my secretary to have sex with my clients, something like that. But we can't talk about that in 1994 on Saturday morning.
I love how Bane replies like, "My needs have already been met," like implying that he's already like they had sex on the way in the car, like they already had sex. Don't worry.
The shocks of that car aren't made for that.
Yes, that's right. That car would be you're not driving it again. Thorne's gonna be mad. So yes, we see Candace pick up Bane. We see that he's being driven to Thorne's, and Thorne is paying him via the diamond stolen in this diamond smuggling ring in order to get him to kill Batman. That is the essential setup here. Bane is a hitman for hire.
They have to use smuggling a lot in these cartoons because they can't really say selling drugs or other vice type things. It usually needs to be smuggling or counterfeiting. The regular Scooby-Doo crimes that get caught in these cartoons.
A lot of smugglers. And Daniel, you pointed out that we hear it in the clip, but his goon that he's using for boxing training or whatever gets a little too sassy, so Thorne knocks him out and basically fires him. It's just a nice bit of storytelling to let you know Thorne is not a good employer if you thought he was. You can't really buddy around with Thorne, and I'm sure Candace feels like her life and job are on the line at any moment. And Bane is even, like, I feel like Thorne feels like he can throw his weight around with Bane, but Bane... he hears that, oh, you're almost lucky this smuggling run went the way it did, or else you wouldn't have gotten paid. And Bane says, no, you're the lucky one. So Bane has made it clear, like, I will kill my employer. You don't scare me, mob boss guy.
Man, and again, when I was a kid and heard him say, "I will break him," I was just like, oh no, it's gonna happen. Like I was so I can't I won't say it all the time, but I so was worried. Like I was on the edge of my seat that Batman's back was going to be broken in this cartoon. It was the same feeling of dread I had watching in that X-Men 97 season where they were like setting up the story from the comics I knew of Wolverine getting his adamantium ripped out, but they actually did it in the X-Men 97 season. They just did. I was feeling similar sense of dread of like, oh no, they're doing it. They're doing it.
And a lot of storytelling in this episode is done via newspaper headlines. In this case, Bane shows off the Killer Croc headline, and Thorne is confused. Like, no, this is not your target. Batman's your target. And Bane points out, well, Batman is on his trail. I'm going to study him and see how he fights and see how he tracks his enemy, and then I'll have the advantage. So this episode is also, it's pretty stuffed because we have some Killer Croc content as well. I feel like he nearly has as much screen time as Bane in this episode.
I love the appearance of Croc in this. Like they're pulling, and I mean, this is them pulling from the comics too, that Croc was used a couple times in Nightfall to set up like, well, how scary is Bane and how strong is he? He beat up the guy who's defined as like, oh, Killer Croc is a much stronger guy than Batman. And how strong is Bane? Well, he beat up like this also is like pro wrestling logic of like, how do you prove a guy is the new guy strong? He beats up the old strong guy.
Yeah, it's a very pro wrestling thing. And then he beats up Batman's car.
Yes. Yeah.
So he finds the time to like really tear into it too before Batman can get himself out of the sewer.
And I really love this great comedic cut that trusts the child audience to understand what's going on here because, Bane is after Killer Croc. He says, "Where can I find this Killer Croc?" We immediately cut to 2 security guards having their lunch. You know something terrible is about to happen to them, and it's going to involve Killer Croc.
Yeah, it's. I would say night security guard is right up there with like caterer at a party Bruce Wayne attends as a dangerous job in Gotham City.
Yeah,
but it's Batman the Animated Series, so you'll probably just be thrown into some crates at best if you're one of these guys.
There's a lot of crates in this episode.
Yes.
A lot of crates get smashed.
They are in like a crate warehouse here. So Killer Croc is pulling a heist on this warehouse full of items. And of course, these guards are no match for him. And he's got his own goons. And I'm using the word goon a lot, but I just love all of the stock goons that all have their interesting designs. There's a safecracker here, and I really want to know the story of this like hatchet-faced man with these big teeth. He feels like he is pulled out of some old noir movie. Like this guy with very specialized skills who's a big character doesn't really get to talk in this episode, but he's got a story, I think.
Yeah, his big buck teeth, while as he's like, he would be like, oh, this guy is the specialist safecracker. He may look goofy, but he's the only guy who can break the safe. But then he can't even do it in time. Like that's I also like with Killer Croc here. Just a quick R.I.P. to his co-creator Jerry Conway, just passed away. The co-creator of Killer Croc. And though I always like this when I came to see Killer Croc in the comics. When he is like more of he's usually drawn more as like a green skinned scaly guy as he looked in the Kids WB era. Like I kind of prefer the like ashen gray version of the Kevin Nolan design that the group that they use in the first seasons of Batman.
Who was a former pro wrestler in his storyline.
That's right. Wow.
He, the toughest guy in the wrestling ring or whatever. I like how many ties every single possible tie they could put into pro wrestling is like that was their filtration system for like making Bane work. I like Killer Croc a lot as well. He's really like, like Bane, he's kind of a fellow lunkhead. He has no like you could try to like mine sympathies out of it, but like not even Croc wants sympathies. One of my favorite lines in the series is at the end of Sideshow, where they're like, "Why'd you do it, Croc?" And he's like, "Just being myself." Like, this is me. I just kind of rob people. I'm kind of awful. It's a really like Frog and the Scorpion kind of thing, where like if you this is a Killer Croc episode, this is what you're gonna get. But yeah, I like the fact they eventually fight in the sewer and Bane kind of punches his way into the sewer, which is really cool. I thought that was really, really cool as a kid, just like the fist coming through the wall.
Yeah, that's the title card of this episode. The hole he has left behind. We didn't mention the title card. It's great. I love the title card. We're at the end of the era of title cards, by the way, sadly, for this series. But another stunning title card I'd love to have hanging somewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of like the futuristic font for Bane, and then this very like visceral like hole, Bane shaped hole in the wall. I like this whole this whole setup. It's really, as I said, talked about Mitch Bryan earlier, it's very economical of like, this is how strong Bane is. He can beat the strongest guy. He can do all this stuff. He's exactly this smart. It gets a lot done. Whereas like, if they were adapting Nightfall, it would be like 15 episodes long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is like, we have to adapt like half of Nightfall in 22 minutes. How are we going to do this?
And this is when Batman and Robin show up. They don't say anything, of course. And one thing I noted, we're really late into the Fox run, but they do enter via broken glass, which I know was always a big no-no that they got away with early, but here it's showing up pretty late in this Fox run.
They do cut away, like they show it, and then they cut away to the guys, and then it goes back to Batman and Robin after the glass is broken. So maybe that was their trick of like, well, we won't show it breaking. We'll show that it has been broken, but we won't actually show a breaking of the glass. Maybe that was how they got around S&P on that.
Yeah, we often like to flag what they're trying to get around the censors, the content, and in this case, you can tell like it's late in the Fox run. A lot of people are punching the camera, and I noticed that Batman does get a face punch in later on Bane, but I think it was allowed because Bane doesn't feel it. It's just like punching Bluto essentially.
He knocks. I think one cool detail is that he knocks the spit out of his mouth.
Yeah.
When he punches him, I think that's really cool. That's a very like you're obviously not going to show like the trickle of blood out of it, but like knocking the spit out of someone's mouth is very it's a very like, this is how hard Batman's trying to hit this guy.
So yes, Batman and Robin show up, and there's obviously like a fight, a stock, cartoon fight between Batman, Robin, and the goons. Always fun, but Croc, he knows the score. He runs away, but it's all an attempt to ambush Batman. So they follow him to the sewer. He slows them down by tossing some scaffolding at them, but he eventually gets away. And this is when we cut to the sewer. Croc is waiting for Batman, but he encounters an unexpected guest. Let's hear who it is.
Come on in, Batman. The water's fine.
He is mine to destroy, monster!
Over my dead body.
As you wish.
That's Croc. Somebody's helping us out. Somebody tough.
And we're not sure what violence was done to Killer Croc, but it's all off screen, and it's so intense that he needs to be in basically a full body cast in Arkham when we see him again. Oh, sorry, I think it's Blackgate. Is he in Blackgate in this one?
I looked this up. See, I was writing down Blackgate in my book, in my notes too, because that's what it is in the comics and other stuff. But it's Stonegate in
Stonegate. Okay,
it's in the Batman the Animated Series. It's Stonegate, not Blackgate. Yeah.
One thing that I like about this, and maybe this is maybe I'm not remembering it from Nightfall if they had it there, and I'm sure that it's been a part of various Bane runs. But one thing that I really like here is that it's very clear that when Bane turns on the Venom, it like hurts him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like is like I like that. Like I imagine that's like we got to add like some depth to this guy. Like so like the closest they get is the fact that like when he turns on his steroids, like it's essentially like threatening to tear his skin off. It hurts so bad.
Yeah.
It's taking years off of his life every time he does it. Like the look on his, this, to read in your book too, that like Bruce Timm drew a lot of the, or he boarded himself some of the Venom scenes. Like that's why I think this kind of breaks rules, or it goes against the grain of normal Batman shots, like not just in design wise, like these so many lines and veins on him just the first time, but also the bright red background. Like that is a bold choice they don't normally do for like a special effect or lighting indication here. It is much more of like honestly, it reminded me of like Ren and Stimpy style freakouts.
Yeah, or like something out of anime.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like, I think one interesting thing is that that's used every once in a while in Batman the Animated Series. Like if you look at Harvey Dent's kind of meltdowns in Two-Face Part 1, if you look at the background like changes and it becomes very like it, like the real world kind of disappears and it becomes like this hazy red and like storm cloud stuff. and it's really interesting. I like that. I like when like emotion or pain is so high that like the rest of the world like warps into something else.
And yes, Croc is beaten up. Robin and Batman drag him out of the sewer, and Robin is speculating this could be like a friend, somebody helping us, but they soon realize it's not because they see the Batmobile has been trashed. And this is, I think, the first time Batman speaks is the end of Act 1, and he says, "Whoever did this was tough. They did it with their bare hands." And we see the Batmobile just completely smashed, like literally like handprints are in the hood and all over the car.
Yeah, it's Batman 489 where Bane gets both his Bane breaks both of Croc's arms like on panel. Like it was again shocking to see as a kid because I knew Killer Croc from the cartoons, and then to see Bane beat him up was shocking. Like I did see that Warner has announced it. I think it's going to begin this year that they are doing a Nightfall direct adaptation as an animated film, directed Blu-ray original film series. And if it's like how they did Watchmen, then Watchmen was like panel for panel, shot for shot, the comic. So if they do it like that, they might actually finally give us almost 40 years later the Nightfall exact recreation we always wanted.
I mean, if true, this could be a 4-hour movie based on how large that comic is.
I think it's 3 movies. I think they're doing to get 3 movies.
Oh wow! So like each arc of the Bane.
I think so.
The first one, when I looked up the news story on it, it was confusingly called. It was like, where's it? Okay, I had it written down. It is like Batman Nightfall Part 1 : Nightfall. So it's Nightfall Part 1, Nightfall.
Makes sense. So we come back from the break here. Batman and Robin are visiting Croc at Stonegate, not Arkham. Sorry, it's Stonegate. It's not Blackgate. It's Stonegate, right? Okay. Every part of him is bandaged up. He's in traction. But this means it's time for some classic Batman torture. Let's hear a bit of that in our next clip.
I didn't think you'd mind some company.
Visiting hours are over.
How do these traction things work?
When my bones heal, I'll show you firsthand. Okay. What do you want?
Who did this, Croc?
Why should I tell you?
If you want to suffer in silence, that's fine by me.
Okay. He was huge. He had these tubes in his head. Bumped him up twice as big right in front of my eyes. And he had an accent, South American or something.
See, that wasn't so hard.
You'll know hard, Bats, once he sucks that juice into his brain and snaps you in two.
Don't bet on it, Killer. Later, Gator.
And we do hear a little crunch there, so I feel like he delayed Croc's recovery by 3 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, it's torture works if it's Batman doing it. It works. It gets
Only if it's Batman.
Yes, great. I like Killer Croc's very noir reply, too, of just like, oh, you want to know what traction is like? Wait for me to heal and I'll show you myself. Like he's gonna put Batman in traction. He's threatening him back with just right there. But like Batman, he's so sure of himself. Like this Batman, as in Bruce Timm's world, is like, yeah, right. This guy's going to stab me in two. I take this guy not at all seriously. This is some dork, new dork.
What's he got, tubes and an accent? Yeah. I can beat those.
Well, it's like, oh, he beat you up, Killer Croc. Well, I've beaten you up like a lot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so we go back to the Batcave. Robin is the mechanic here. He's working underneath the smashed car. Alfred enters with his typical light sarcasm. You seem to have a ding in your door, sir. And of course, the car is smashed to bits. And we find out that this is a big issue between guys. You never mess with another guy's car. Even Batman knows that.
Yeah, this does sound like Batman's becoming almost like a greaser type stereotype. Like it's just like, hey, you mess with my wheels, man. Yes. This ain't cool, dude.
Yes, despite how disconnected from humanity he is, he knows, cars are very personal to a guy, even if you're Batman.
It's a very funny line, and I like the fact that like it's kind of a testament to the fact that Kevin Conroy was very like. He was so adept at like going to like whatever like region of like Batman's personality you needed, whether he could be like funny glib Batman or like ultra angst Batman, and he was really good, and he delivers it. You know, I feel like another actor would like would take that line and be like, after everything I've said as Batman, this is going to read so weirdly. But Conroy's so good. He's, so good at this role.
That's true. It's not said with like brooding intensity. It's said in a kind of a wry way. And then Alfred congratulates him for keeping a sense of humor about the whole incident. So yeah, I feel like that really shows his range.
Yeah, like I remember in the first episode on the Wings, where I only throw butlers out the window or something like that. It's he's really good. He makes jokes.
And this is when Batman basically asks Alexa to find out information about Killer Croc. Sorry, not Killer Croc, but on Bane, because he's going off of what Croc told him. And we find out about the origins of Bane, the Cuban prison Peña Duro for lifers only, and some horrible experiment went down there. And we see that there was one prison escapee, and we see photos of someone who had clearly Kool-Aid Man their way through various walls. We see Bane has a really direct approach to the problem. You just walk right through it. And we've seen his wall destroying ability earlier in this episode too.
He loves smashing through walls. He loves escape. And it shows this is like a little bit. If you've in the Dark Knight Rises too, they changed the location, but like he was born in the pit. He was born in the prison. Like he's a super predator built in by the darkness and all that. It kind of fits with this too, but the would-be super soldier program, and in the comics it's the fake Caribbean island of Santa Prisca, which is like DC in general likes to make up a place. Marvel does it too, but DC especially, it's like, well, they don't want to make up like they don't want to have somebody invade a real Middle Eastern country in a comic per se. They just make up something called Blankistan, and it's some place like that. Yes.
Or say that Cuba is making super soldiers. They'd rather not put that on Cuba.
Yes, yeah. But it's like how in The Simpsons, though, where it's like, well, you know who they mean in these things. Like they don't, though if they go the opposite way, you end up with stuff like Death in the Family, where the Joker is like literally works for Iran in it. He is like the Shah. Not the Shah. He is working for like the Iranian government, making him like a diplomat that Batman can't attack in one of the comics, which is very it's a little dated. It's a little dated now.
Well, now let's hear a clip of Batman digging deeper about Project Gilgamesh.
Computer, run background file on Project Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh, named after the warrior?
The ultimate warrior. A chemical plan to create super soldiers out of hardened prisoners. It was abandoned when they got more than they bargained for.
And what was that, sir?
They got Bane. After he escaped, Bane went into business for himself as a freelance assassin. Price per job, $5 million. So the question is, who wants to eliminate me?
That line is forming around the block, sir.
Well, let me put it this way. Who has $5 million to spend?
I have anticipated his every move. Very soon now, I will allow you the pleasure of drawing the mask from Batman's decimated face.
And I guess I saw this episode as a bit odd when I was a kid, because normally this would be a great sandbox for a writer to find sympathy for Bane, or to reveal the tragedy of Bane, because this is a man who was in prison and they experimented on him. That's terrible.
Yes.
You should feel something for this character, but instead they're like, I guess it's bad, but that's not really the point here. It's just like a giant person for Batman to fight that is involved in this larger story.
Boy, that's true. Like he could, in so many other stories, this would like humanize him to Batman a little bit. Like, oh, he would call him by his real name. He'd find out his real name and he'd say like, hey, I know what happened to you, and it happened to so many other people, but you don't have to do this. But no, it's like, yeah, it was Project Gilgamesh. I guess he's supposed to be pretty big. All right. Anywho, who could hire him? Like, they move on from it pretty quick.
I like it. I kind of like the fact, because like so many Batman villains, like Batman becomes like their world. Like they obsess over him, like to the extent that like their reality becomes like Batman. But for Bane, it's just like, this is just like a job. Like after this gets done, he's gonna be like, okay, thanks, I'm heading out. You got, you're now, you replaced Rupert Thorne. I got the money. I'm gonna go like go to Metropolis. Somebody's hiring me to go beat up Metallo or whatever. So yeah, I like that. It's very cold, but it also kind of fits into like the fact that he's just a mercenary. He's not like, again, kind of talks about the lack of respect that a lot of the creators of the show had for him, but he's not going to be there long. He's in Gotham until like the next day, and then he's got to fly out of there.
Yeah. Maybe Batman has no respect for him because he's this guy's treating it like a job and not like a life that he embodies. I'm sure it feels like he's doing this for money, so I'm sure he's living large wherever he lives, spending these diamonds on something.
There's an episode called The Worryman with Mad Hatter, which kind of which actually supports your point, Bob, where like Mad Hatter has this like get rich and get out scheme by like stealing a lot of wealthy people's money and then exiting. And Batman like chastises him. He's like, you used to be so smart and have such basically I'm paraphrasing, but like it's such cool, mean plans, and now you're just another crook. But part of it is like, but what about me? What's the story about me?
Yeah.
Like where's the me obsession? Like why aren't you like fixated on me anymore? Batman's really taking it to heart that he's like, and he doesn't even care about my backstory.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't like when villainy is just a scam and not, a tortured lifestyle that is created by cruelty or trauma.
Or like revenge on being screwed out of a business deal, or because somebody took your girlfriend, or a dead spouse, or say Hugo Strange, who is like the ultimate like evil therapist who uses your all of your confessions against you. Like, yeah, this is just, he's a guy who came to town for money, and he's after he kills Batman, he'll go to another the only reason he would stay is because like Candace, Lady Macbeth style, will talk him into like, actually you should be in Rupert Thorne's position. Like that's the only reason. In the comics, he intends to rule Gotham. Like if you didn't read Nightfall, but if you've seen Dark Knight Rises, when Bane takes over Gotham after breaking Batman, like that is similar to what he does for several issues of the comics after he breaks the Dark Knight in that comic too.
And we could tell that Candace, I'm sure, is planning on disposing of Bane once he gets her to the top.
Probably pretty easily. Yeah.
This is just how this world works, right?
Yeah. Or she'll find a new guy to usurp Bane. Like, yes. Like, I mean, she's a, like you said, a total femme fatale. Like she's, I'm glad that they could use a previously appearing woman instead of just make up a new woman, which they could have easily done. But use the history of Candace is already a woman behind the downfall of Harvey Dent to then bring her into another villain's atmosphere.
And yes, we go to Thorne's place here after Batman reveals a newspaper that says Rupert Thorne in the headline, that answering the question, who could have had the money to hire Bane? Of course, it's Thorne. Bane, he's just pumping weights on the couch in his full Bane getup. I guess he is like, he's working hard at this lifestyle, but he knows it's a job, so he's just training for the job at hand here. This is when Candace is sweet-talking him, telling him, this could be all yours. And Bane asks, well, what about your employer? She says, oh, accidents do happen. So she's saying, once this is over, we move on to kill Rupert Thorne, and this will all be ours. And then eventually it will all be mine once I find a way to like shove you into a pit of acid or whatever she's going to plan.
I like they share a quick kiss, and then when the door opens and Thorne comes in, they like, it's like the kids cartoon version of them quickly, buttoning up their shirts of like, hey boss, yes. Everything's fine.
If Bane's workout gear is his like villain uniform, he must smell so bad.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
He's always wearing his gym clothes.
There's a point later where like smothers Robin, and that he must be like sweaty and like gross and like he's just wearing his like gym outfit that he's lugged all the way from like South America and his like giant heavy trunk. Ugh.
Well, and let's not forget he's also been skulking around in the sewers to fight Croc in the same costume too.
Yeah, I forgot about the whole sewer angle. Yeah, this guy, he's a bad smelling guy. I'm sure Candace is choking it back as she's kissing him. Rupert comes in, and now Bane's eyes are on the prize. Rupert says he's out there somewhere, and Bane replies, yes, probably closer than we think. And as Bane makes his exit, we then cut to Robin watching all of this and surveilling him, tape recording him from a nearby building. So Robin is seeing all this go down. This is eventually the evidence that will I assume will get Candace killed because she never appears again. I think like after after the episode ends, Rupert Thorne kills her. It's a kind of a brutal ending the way this is left. It's like, well, she can't survive this. There's no way she will be allowed to stay in his employ.
Yeah, I wonder what Batman thinks like like a week later when her body is fished out of the Gotham River. And
Yes.
he's like, oh, I guess I killed her, kind of. Oh, well.
And Robin continues the surveillance. He watches Candace get driven away by a taxi, and then he sees Batman pull up in the Batmobile, but we didn't see Bane leave, and there's a very important reason. He is somehow right behind Robin. Despite being as huge as he is, he's also very quiet. So this is when Bane has Robin, grabs him by the wrist, dangles him over the pavement. Robin briefly gets away by like swinging on Bane's arm under his legs. And then he tries to lose him, but he is incredibly agile, thanks to the power of editing. We don't know how he's getting around so fast, but he can just like kind of appear anywhere. And he eventually gets Robin and carries him away. And now Batman has another problem on his hands. He's going to be killed by Bane, and Robin presumably will be killed by him as well.
It's a nice knockout hug too that doesn't need to like punch him in the face. Standards and practices can be happy with that. It's Robin getting kidnapped is such a cliche, but in Batman stories, I feel like they try to only have like the biggest dogs do it, as in like, you know, Ra's al Ghul did it in a previous one, in the Demon's Head one that we covered, another of my favorites as a kid. And then Bane does it here too, which is like, again, collapsing. It's taking another moment from the Nightfall thing. It's Detective Comics 660 is the specific issue. Bane kidnaps Tim Drake Robin in that one too.
And yeah, I remember in the Tiny Toon Adventures Batman parody, Bat Duck, Hampton plays Robin, but in this case, he's named Decoy.
Right. Decoy the pig hostage. Yes. Yeah.
And that really, before I even knew what Robin was, that identified what was in my mind for me. Like, oh, he's the guy that's sort of like the villains focus on while Batman can kick their asses.
Yeah. Yes, it's why I really enjoyed as a kid. One of my favorite books to read was the Robin comic that Chuck Dixon and Tom Grummett did during Nightfall, where Robin did his own solo adventures. So he wasn't a part of the Batman story. It was him facing villains himself, him doing his own detective work and having to also try to balance high school stuff. Like it made, one of the most beloved comic characters is Spider-Man, and part of it is like he's a teen hero who has to originally balance high school and being a superhero. So they're bringing that into Robin, but I really it's what makes Tim Drake my favorite Robin, because he was also like my childhood Robin, so the easy one for me to identify with. Which they put some Tim Drake elements on this Dick Grayson. But then they also sort of have it for the Tim Drake that comes later in the Gotham Knights era. But it's also kind of a Jason Todd Robin. They're mixing all the Robins together across the two that appear.
And Jason Todd is the Robin who was killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then came back. He's currently alive and a good guy now, I think, as the Red Hood, I want to say. Yeah.
It's a comic book. We're going to move on to Act 3 here because we see Candace at her home looking very self-satisfied, but unfortunately she's getting a pop-in from Batman. Let's hear her get lightly interrogated in this next clip here.
I'd like to speak to you about your new boyfriend.
Have another update. The fact made flirting.
You've been stood up.
He knew you'd come. He was obsessed with you in prison. He's read everything about you. He knows you better than you know yourself. Bet it's for you.
I've been watching you, Batman. Were I a common sniper, you'd have never reached the phone.
What do you want, Bane?
Something more personal between foes. What do you value most, Batman? Perhaps I should say, whom do you value most?
Robin.
And Candace could have been considered a throwaway character, just like, oh, here is the femme fatale we need to tell this story. But what I like about her is that, unlike most non-costume villains, she is not intimidated by Batman at all. She's got her eyes on the prize. She understands like all the parts are in place for my plan. And when Batman is in her apartment, she's just curled up on the couch watching cartoons, barely paying attention to him. I just love the body language of this character when Batman's around.
Yeah. That also, like, she normally, like, a lot of people get scared when Batman like breaks into your home and yells at you. But she, especially I would guess working for Rupert Thorne, like she knows like, Batman, you're not going to hurt me. Not really. Like, I'm cool. Like, I'll wait for you to get a call from Bane. And when she says like, he knows everything about you, again, in the comics, that meant Bane figured out his secret identity. And here it just means like Bane read all the microfiche he could on Batman, but hasn't really made any discoveries.
Yeah, and Candace not even annoyed that Batman just threw a footstool through her window. She's just smiling and heading outside. She knows where she's going, and she's got to watch like a really cool fight, like we are at home.
I like the fact that so many characters in Batman the Animated Series, like adults, just like openly like read comics and watch cartoons all the time. Like they're constantly reading comics. Like bad guys, security guards are always flipping through like a Tiny Toon Adventures comic book or watching cartoons on TV. And it's it really set up like a course of my life, I think, as somebody who is constantly like talking about cartoons or watching cartoons or reading comics.
We see what's on our TV. It's some sort of like Felix the Cat looking show. And of course, because it takes place in this vague post-war time, it's in black and white. All the TVs are in black and white usually.
I like that it is a cat and mouse like chase cartoon because, you know, Bane is the cat and Batman's the mouse, at least in Bane's vision of things, for sure.
Yeah, I see there was some thought put into just like, okay, what's on the TV? All right, it's going to symbolize what's going to happen next. So Batman reaches Robin's costume. We see a note on it. It reads, "Wharves, the rose is thorn." So that's where Robin is. And he crumples the note, and we cut to the wharf, and we see a shirtless Robin. He's strung up next to Candace, and she's about to remove his mask, but Bane grabs her wrist and tells her patience, because soon she'll have them both. And there's a bit of a seductive element of her removing more clothes from Robin. Again, I don't know why his shirt needed to come off, but somebody was happy to see this.
Yeah, I mean, this, like, yes, seeing this, 19-year-old Dick Grayson, is strung up like it is. This probably activated some young people watching this cartoon for sure back then. Same with how Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman did around the same time for folks. Like, yeah, it's especially like her wanting a mask also answers the question of like, well, okay, if you've got Batman unconscious, why would you not? The first thing you do is you take his mask off and you find out who he is. They have to have some plot explanation, and Bane is like very honor bound of like, no, I can't earn it until I like kill them and then unmask them.
And this is when Bane activates a machine which lifts Robin on a crane. And when he's lifted, we can see there's also a weight tied to his feet. And he is then placed over the graving dock. By the way, I looked that up. That is a dock that fills with water so boats can dock and then leave, and they can drain that dock. So it's eventually just like a very large pool that Robin can drown in. And of course, it's the perfect time for a quip. So Candace tells him, "Nice hanging with you," and she leaves. So she's ready with the quips. She is ready to fight pretty soon. We're going to see that. Candace is really auditioning to be the next villain in the series.
Candace has a lot of juice. I like her. Like, I like that she could run off when things go bad, but you know what? She's the type to take her heels off and really get into it if she has to.
And this is when a Batman arrives. Bane reveals himself immediately on top of this giant pole. It's a great entrance. This is when he says, "Welcome to the arena, Batman." And he really cranks up the Bane device this time. He's fully yoked. He dives at Batman. This is when the wrestling match starts. Batman's punches are doing nothing to him. And I'm sure like if this was a wrestling match, Batman would be looking at the audience or his manager and like shrugging comically. Like, what do I do next?
Yeah. He'd be doing like the Hogan thing of like,
just like the look around. Yeah, I know. Yeah. They stage this so like, yeah, I think that's where even if Tim and Altieri specifically were not fans of the Bane character, like I think they are. This isn't just to take the piss out of Bane and express their distaste for the character. They're like, you know what? It is fun to animate a wrestling match between Batman and Bane. They're having a good time with this.
Yeah, and we see that next because Bane essentially tosses Batman against the ropes, clotheslines him, and now Batman's using these wrestling moves that work better on a show where you can't really punch anyone in the face because he keeps jumping on Bane's neck, wrapping his legs around Bane's neck, and then tossing him, and this works like about 3 times. So he's finding a strategy here.
The Hurricane Rana.
Yes, the Hurricane Rana. Yeah.
Oh, this is what it's called.
He does it. It's a real thing. He does it like it's a luchador move, and Batman does it like 2 times, and then the second time Bane counters into a gorilla press and just throws him down. I looked up. I'm a pseudo big wrestling fan, but I looked up, like, I know that if I did not get the name right in the book, that was going to be the thing that people like most like got onto me about, is the fact that, like, if I was like, and then he did a moonsault to Bane, they'd be like, it's not a moonsault. You know nothing. 1 star.
And we've calmed all the wrestling fans in our audience. Thank you so much.
No, I was going to get you for that. No, I'm not. No, I also like he does the way Bane like dives onto him at the start of it, like it's like such a top rope type move at the beginning. Like it is just they're having so much fun with this animation in it. Like the way Batman runs into his clothesline is so funny and silly. Like I'm glad they're having fun with it, as and same when they zoom in on Bane, like the blue veins that pop out, or even I swear they get some of his in the comic page. Bane is like a hairy shouldered guy. Like there's body hair on him that normally never gets animated just for like detail reasons. It's in Batman the Animated Series, but sometimes on the zoom ins, I was like, oh, they're kind of even giving him like the shoulder hair I'm used to like classic Bane having.
And it seems like Batman has bested Bane because Batman is thrown into these crates, and then what's revealed next is a mooring gun. So we're learning some terms here: graving dock and mooring gun. It's basically a rope launcher, something he's very used to using. And Bane is approaching. We get the classic comic quote, "I will break you," which they're referencing the Nightfall arc, of course. But in this case, Batman fires the mooring gun at Bane, which pushes him off the ship into the water. Presumably Bane is out of here, but we'll see him again very soon. This is when Candace gets a lot less confident about what's going on here, decides to make her exit, and then Batman eventually gives up on pursuing her because at this point it's time to rescue Robin, and that's what he does next, or at least tries to. He goes underwater, manages to pick the lock on Robin's leg weights as the water reaches his mouth. So there's a lot of peril here with Robin about to drown. And even though it looked like she was still fleeing earlier, Candace is watching this. I feel like if you're on the side of a Batman fight, even if you are potentially a target, you need to see what's going on. It's too exciting.
Yes, I mean, Altieri, one of my favorite shots in this episode that really is like, oh, that is like worthy of being edited into the clip show package's openings. Like when she looks back to see that Batman is chasing her, like it's a classic like Batman shadowy lightning bolt kind of shot of him looking down at her in his scariest, biggest like triumphant mode.
There's one shot that I really like of this, and it's an odd pause, but when Batman grabs the mooring gun and holds it, they do like a side shot. That's kind of a side wide shot where there's like a pause, and Bane looks at it like, are you going to shoot me with it? And then he gets shot. And it's a very like, it's a weird, like, on one hand, like you'd be like, oh, that's kind of a weird pause that deflates things a little bit if you watch this episode enough. But on the other hand, I like the fact that like Bane's like, you're not going to shoot me with a gun. Oh,
yeah.
So
I thought we were men fighting here, and you're going to shoot me with a gun.
I broke your car and everything. We're going to fight like men. You can't just shoot me with a ship gun.
Yeah, I guess Batman, it's desperate when he has to resort to a gun, but in this case, it's like, well, they're not bullets, so it's fine. It doesn't break the Batman rules. And yes, Bane has returned. Candace backs up into a sopping wet Bane. He's made it back onto the docks here, or onto the ship. And Bane grabs Batman, slams him against the ground, kicks him into the water. Kicks Robin to the water, and this is when Robin and Candace start fighting. I did laugh out loud because I forgot this part of the episode where Robin kind of quips at Candace, not expecting her to do anything in return. He says, like, come here, sweetie, I want to discuss something with you. Candace just takes off her high heels and jumps in, and there's like a moderately sexy fight between Candace and Robin because she has her like legs wrapped around him and everything. I was not expecting this from Candace.
She bites into him at one point. Like they appear back in the water, and she's like pulling on his skin. So
yes, yeah, she's they're having a lot of fun with like, she actually wants to like throw down with Robin, but how much of this grappling can they even show? Like the little cuts to it, I guess that too feels like a little bit of adding comedy to, again, in the Batman Bane fight that this is emulating from the comics has none of this light stuff in it. It is like a dark story with a ton of just a narration over it that's very, very arched, dark narration.
Yeah, it does help that we keep cutting back to this Robin Candace like pool fight that could potentially end up in a drowning with how savage she's being here. So Batman is pulling out all the stops here. He tosses a batarang at Bane. Bane just crushes it in his hand, calls it a pathetic little toy. And we see eventually Robin does get the upper hand on Candace. And then Batman does find a secret boss strategy to fight Bane and win. Let's hear that in this next clip with a lot of screaming, just to be warned.
You've got nothing. Beg for mercy. Scream my name.
Never.
You are beaten. Now I will break you. Huh? No! The venom! Gotta stop it! No! Help me! You can't do this to me! I am invincible! I am Bane!
And I mean, the audio doesn't do it justice because you do need to see the drawings of Bane about to explode. I believe these are all Bruce Timm drawings. He really chipped in on this part of the episode to deliver the pure body horror. And you're right, Henry. It does remind me of Ren and Stimpy. Just the grossness of it, the horror of it, the abstract background behind him. And I guess Tim in his earlier days did work with John Kricfalusi, so I'm sure there's some inspiration there with what he learned from John K.
It's the cuts on like I am Bane, like the intercuts between the dialogue too, and like also the way like the eyes bulging enough to pop the red lenses out, cool. And it's just his big eyes like that. That it is cool. It is also like a big cartoony take that they normally. Like if Bruce Timm wasn't the guy drawing it, they would have told somebody like, well, this is too big for Batman. You can't have literal eye bulging joke in a Batman thing. But Bruce Timm did it as a way of like to really say like, Bane is stupid. I want to take away. Did you think his red eyes are cool? Well, actually his dumb eyeballs would pop out of his head when he took too much steroids.
And it's also really effectively selling the idea this character's eyes could explode from his head on this cartoon. Where we're pushing it to that limit by showing you just the amount of bulging those things are doing in his skull.
I swear when I was a kid and heard this like heart beating stuff keep racing too, it made me feel like I was having a panic attack. Like it's so heavy. And again, when I was a kid, seeing him say like beg for mercy, scream my name, like that's what's on the page right before he breaks him. When he's screaming, beg for mercy, scream my name, and he's got his big wiggly lips that also shows like his desperation. Like, again, I thought this is like, it's going to happen. He does the pose from the comic, but that also is where it like showed me as a kid, like, oh, Bane actually has an incredibly obvious weak point. It's a plastic tube running down him that could easily be cut by any single batarang. And I can see from the Bruce Timm vision of things of like, hey, Batman, why did you become stupid and not attack his obvious weak point right there? You're supposed to be smarter than this, Batman.
I mean, this just reminds me, it's a very obvious weak point. I like how Batman has to outthink Bane and use like a very sneaky tactic instead of just brute force or anything like that. He has to like fight him at a different game. But I just think of like the era in which I would wear headphones with a cord, how they would get snagged on every doorknob and every corner. Bane must constantly be losing these tubes.
So, yeah, I think even in Dark Knight Rises for the Bane design, like their version of that is instead of like really steroids, it's that he's in a constant state of pain and he has like painkillers built into his mask. And that's like the way Batman finds that weak point in that movie is he just like starts punching the mask and he's like, oh no, the venom. Like that's kind of...
The Dark Knight Rises version of Bane is very funny because it's like there's no like tactical arc to it. Like in the beginning fight, he's trying to like fight him like ninja fight him. And then he comes back and his I know my secret weapon is to just punch him in the face a lot.
Yes.
And like it's about the most like blunt tool you could possibly have, Batman, as he defeats Bane. But just like, I'll just hit him in the mouth as many times as I can.
That movie, I feel like that is my personal Rise of Skywalker, in that it completely dropped the ball and then found new balls to drop. The trilogy I was enjoying so far, and I've only seen it once in the theater, and I really disliked it. So I honestly forgot Bane was in it. I forgot which one of those he was in. It's like, oh, all the Bane impressions come from that one. That's right.
Yes.
One thing about, like, because it's like a 21 or 22 minute episode, and they spend quite a bit of time on Bane's like crash out toward the end, and I admire the cartoon for just how long that goes on. Because I think I want to say, like, I timed it out. Like, did y'all ever watch the episode Mudslide with Clayface's return?
We haven't covered it, so I feel like it's been a good 15 years since I've seen it.
He can't keep his body together, and like eventually he's like, I'm gonna kill Batman because Batman's trying to stop me from, like, creating, like, stop me from reforming myself. And he like pushes Batman in his body, and he tries to suffocate him that way. And I timed it out, and it is like, and considering how fast cartoons move right now, to like watch that and to watch Bane's, like, again, his overdose, it lasts a long time. Like, it lasts for like 1/48th of a cartoon, or 1/44th of the cartoon's entire length, which is a lot of cartoon. I remember talking to Eric Radomski, who directed Mudslide, about this, and I wish I'd asked Kevin Altieri about it. But he was, one of the things he was talking about, like, one of the benefits at that point is being able to have the time and the patience to say, okay, we really need to drag this out and like make it like truly agonizing, and having the license to do that. And they probably had something here where, like, again, in like an age where like people are like, be like, I'm going to start my Netflix movie with like a 2-minute shot. Nope, the shot has to change in 10 minutes because those are what people get bored. This is very much like, no, we are going to almost kill this guy, and it's going to take as long as it's going to take.
Yeah, again, like this episode starts with 2 minutes of no dialogue, and this is for presumably a child audience, or at least that's who they were targeting. Of course, everybody liked the show, but you could easily switch to another cartoon. It starts with talking. The talking doesn't stop. In 1994.
Oh, man, just like his now viewing it from the, like, knowing that Tim drew him personally, like the layouts for this of his overdose, and just and his distaste for Bane, to hear him say, like, you can't do this to me, I am invincible, I am Bane, like it is mocking him as like what an empty suit he is. He's like, no, I'm so much better than this. I am Bane, I'm the most important villain ever. And just, this is him completely, like, literally deflating the character and his importance.
And like the Joker before her, Candace does manage to get away, but Batman tells his pal, "Let her go. I know where she's headed." And of course, we cut to Thorne Enterprises, and everything wraps up very quickly in this final clip.
Is this the best you can throw at me, Rupert? Go on, Candace. Take his mask. Thought you might like to hear this, Rupert. It's a new release. Maybe we'll call it Better Luck Next Time.
With Batman out of the way, Gotham could be yours. So could I.
And what about your employer?
Well, accidents do happen.
Candace?
And like I said earlier, I guess the implication is that something very bad is going to happen to Candace, but they do soften it by having Thorne yell at Candace like he's Superintendent Chalmers, like the classic
Yes.
angry boss.
That's true.
You've done it again.
That's so great. Like, and also, man, like, to think of it as they just have Bane. Bane doesn't talk anymore. He's like a child brought to the principal's office, and it's just like, oh, you think this fucking, like, Batman tosses the mask on it with such disdain, like, good, this is what the best you got, loser. You spent $5 million on this guy sucks, kids. This guy sucks. Like, Batman should look at the camera like, see how much this guy sucks, kids.
Yeah,
you should
he's not even bringing Bane to jail or anything. He's just returning him to Thorne like he's merchandise, like, oh, your toy broke.
And he's the thing also that I like about this when I rewatched the book is that, like, Bane's conscious and just kind of like defeated, and it's another like luchador thing where, like, the removal of the mask is like the worst defeat. Like, you can lose a match, but if you lose the mask, it is like degrading and like highly disrespectful in a way that, like, often, pro wrestling fans know in a way that like American audiences don't really get, because we're always like, what's behind the mask? And in like luchador or like Mexican wrestling, that's not super important. The mask is like a sign of like culture and a sign of like esteem, and like different, families wear different masks and like different emblems on it. But the fact that like, he's still like awake and is just like so like deflated by his like defeat that he's just like, fine, I guess I just messed up again, Bane. I really like that.
He looks like a total loser. Yeah. I also like looking for meta potential commentary in it, like I like to, is that Candace represents like the executive who made them put Bane in the episode, and they're like, fine, here's your Bane episode. We hope you get fired. Like, we didn't want this.
I did want to mention, we were talking about Bane unmasked, and I was just looking at pictures of him to remind myself of what he looked like. And apparently 2 years ago, Mondo released a figure based on this design, and it does come with alternate heads. One of them is said unmasked Bane. Another one is the terrifying bulging eye Bane, taken right from Bruce Timm's drawing. So if you have $300, which is what these toys cost, you can easily have this in your home.
Mondo makes some incredible 90s animated series toys for adults who are ready to pay the price of a washing machine for an action figure.
I just ordered the Rocco's Modern Life figures, and I think that's the only thing I'll ever buy from them. But no one else is making these things, so Mondo, you got me. I'm sorry.
Yes, yep.
I like the fact that, like, in the new Batman Adventures follow-up, like, they show Bane again in the Over the Edge episode, and he has, like, the leather and, like the gimp mask and, like, the spiked collar and stuff, and it's very indicative of a guy that has, like, experienced, like, the worst defeat of his life, and is like, I'm not that Bane anymore. I'm cool Bane now. Not like that Bane that got his mask ripped off. That was loser Bane.
He looks like the WCW version of Bane. There, I made a wrestling reference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's NWO Bane.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. I will say, though it is like a non-canonical version of Bane in Over the Edge, he is more of the threatening supervillain Bane who actually could like kill Batman kind of guy. He's in well, I guess to canonically say, Barbara Gordon's vision of him in a dream she had from a scarecrow toxin. I do think if you want some Bane with actual pathos, in Gail Simone, she writes him in the Secret Six comics, actually pretty good with giving him some pathos. But it's to read in your book again. This was news for me. But someday I would love for us to cover the movie Sub-Zero of Batman, but to read in your book that like Boyd Kirkland, the director of it, it was not a Mr. Freeze script he had, that he actually liked Bane and saw him as like a Terminator style nemesis you could actually make a whole movie around. It was interesting to learn that Boyd Kirkland, a contemporary and a director of many great episodes, like that his idea was like, you know what? No, I don't hate Bane. I think we could actually do a whole movie about Bane.
Yeah, him and scriptwriter Randy Rigel were very like, they liked the idea of Bane. They wanted to do like right by him. They wanted to treat him, to give him the event that was like, that reflected like kind of his gigantic comic book debut. And they were like, no, you're going to do Mr. Freeze. And, one thing that was interesting about that is that, like, Mr. Freeze is probably like the feather in the cap of the show in terms of like what it can do with storytelling, just on the basis of how it took Mr. Freeze, who in the comics, like, they're not exaggerating when they say that guy was like, he did ice stuff. And then, they revamped him to the extent that that's now the Mr. Freeze everybody looks at. You'd think that like, oh, we want, you should do more stuff with Mr. Freeze. But like Kevin Altieri was like, when I talked to him, and I think I included in the book, where he was like, he didn't like including too much Mr. Freeze. Because like eventually, like, if you include too much Mr. Freeze, you get to a point where you don't need to use him anymore. Like if you give him, like, if his wife gets cured or something, like, what's his point, Just let him kind of be lost in the gloom of his own, like, eternal angst.
Yeah, you really can't beat Heart of Ice, and I think every attempt to revisit him in the series was less of a success, but I do like Sub-Zero. Not as much as I did when I first saw it, but I think it is a great end to his story, and especially for a movie that they were kind of forced to write,
And as a bookend of the original era and designs of Batman the Animated Series, it's fitting too that it's like the last time you see this specific style, before they shift into the updates for the Kids WB era, they're facing one of the earliest successes of the series. So you bookended with Mr. Freeze.
So any final thoughts on this one? Again, Daniel, I'm glad you chose this. I don't think we would have chosen it on our own. And it's an interesting examination of them playing with a character they don't like and trying to find a compelling story where he is like a cog in this grand machine with Killer Croc and Candace and Batman and Robin. And this conspiracy to overthrow Rupert Thorne. I did like it. I forgot like how cool the Bane stuff is and how much body horror there is, especially when he's about to explode. So I think, again, like we said earlier, this second order of episodes, not as beloved, but I think there are some real standouts here. And it's not like they were asleep at the switch. There was some brain drain after the first season, but there's so much great stuff to mine from these 20 episodes.
Yeah, I really like this episode. It's, if you're looking for like a Perchance to Dream or a Heart of Ice, this is not the episode. But if you want a good example of Batman as kind of like a rip-roaring adventure show, and Gotham City is kind of an established ecosystem of good guys and bad guys, and there's mobsters and freaks and villains and all that, it's really cool. And I like seeing, even if they didn't necessarily like Bane, or even not necessarily like him, didn't buy the hype at the time, they obviously are still willing to be curious and kind of have fun with him. So I appreciate that.
I understand that. And we talk about they were adults when this character came out and we were kids. And of course, we were more accepting. I feel the same way. I'm sure it was the same for us when we all saw Bowser Jr. for the first time. At least I think Henry and I have that in common.
Yes,
like, who's this newcomer? He's not as cool as Bowser.
Yeah, where's the Koopa Kids? This guy's just a ripoff of the Koopa Kids. Yes, yeah, that's how. Now at my age, like I don't stay as current with the comics anymore. Like, just as a recent example, I watched the Daredevil Born Again series for Marvel on Disney Plus, and I've enjoyed it. But they have a character, a villain introduced in the last 10 years, and I'm just like, oh, who's this new guy? And like, that's how I am now. Of like, this is a villain who I didn't read the comics where they were introduced, and I am catching up with the adaptation. Like, now that's where I'm at as a comic nerd.
Any final thoughts on this one though, Henry, on Bane?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, this, I will always remember this around, like in the fallout of my 12th birthday of being so excited for Bane to be in it, and I did not take it any of the meta stuff, or it did not come through to me that Bane was lame or not cool and a bad villain. I did not laugh at him. I was just happy that they avoided Batman having his back broken and doing the whole Nightfall thing, because I did not like Asbat, as he's called by some fans, compared to the regular Batman. And I just remember it as a good time with a cool fight. And now watching it, it's like, I think even with their spirit of, we want to take Bane down a peg and tell you he's stupid, they can't help but animate a cool, fun luchador fight in the third act.
They still have all of their Batman animation tools, so they're going to deliver a good looking episode.
Yeah, it's a real testament to Batman the Animated Series that even if they're like, ugh, this guy, they still like create this really awesome piece of television.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show. Please let us know more about your book and where to find you online. And I am excited for the release of your book. We are special boys who got to read it ahead of time, but I can't wait for everyone else to get their grubby little hands on it. It is a great examination of this series, very in depth, so much context. I enjoyed reading it so much.
Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate that. And, thank you again, Henry, for reaching out and, being curious about the book in the first place. It means a lot that y'all enjoyed it. Yeah, I Am the Night, The Ultimate Unauthorized History of Batman the Animated Series is available on September 1st, wherever books are sold. It's available for pre-order right now. If you have the ability to pre-order it, please do. Pre-orders mean a lot to authors. If you don't have that, when the time gets closer, recommend it to your local library. I love seeing my book in libraries. Libraries are one of the greatest public resources we have. But yeah, it's, again, as I said in the beginning, it is not just about Batman the Animated Series, though it is a lot about Batman the Animated Series and how great that cartoon is and what went into making it so great. But a look at a time capsule of animation in the early 90s that I wish we could have again, where creative people were allowed to be creative and play to their strengths by company executives that actually, let them do their jobs and gave them the proper resources to do that. But yeah, thank you so much for letting me talk about that book and let me talk about Bane.
Yeah, once again, the 90s were different. We are currently waiting 2 years for 10 more Batmen to show up.
Yes.
1992, 65. Here, take them all. They're all great.
And a movie. And that was just the start.
Yes.
And if it succeeds, then we'll order 20 more. Like, yeah, it's I know that in the future, the episodes where we cover Batman, any other Batman cartoon, we will be referring back to I Am the Night now as a new resource for us for information on specific episodes too. So
for sure.
Yes. So Daniel, thank you so much for sharing this with us and the world.
Yes, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you once again to Daniel Dockery for coming on the show. Please check out his book. It's called I Am the Night, The Ultimate Unauthorized History of Batman, the Animated Series. That's available on September 1st. Please check it out. We love the book. As for us, if you want to support the show and get a ton of bonus episodes on top of that, head on over to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons and sign up at that $5 level. And when you do, you'll access ad-free episodes that arrive 1 week at a time. So if you don't like ads, that's a way to get rid of the ads. And you also get access to over 200 bonus podcasts. For this episode alone, I will highlight the fact that you can get, I think, like 20 plus more episodes of Blabbin' About Batman, the animated series, if you sign up at that $5 level, available immediately. We've covered some of the greats like Heart of Ice, Almost Got Him, Baby Doll, which I mentioned earlier, A Bullet for Bullock. There's just so many there hiding away on the Patreon at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. You get all those existing episodes and also episodes about Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, and The Critic. And you also get a new episode about Futurama and King of the Hill every month at that level. We've got like 9 years worth of content at this point. So there's a lot waiting for you when you sign up at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And there's a $10 level too. When you sign up for that level, you get the $5 stuff naturally, but you also get one mega, immense, huge podcast once a month for patrons of that level. What is that, Henry?
That is the What a Cartoon Movie, is Bob referring to there, where we cover an animated feature film as in depth as we do an episode of Batman. And again, as a testament to how much we enjoy Batman the Animated Series, what was the first movie we ever did on What a Cartoon Movie? It was Batman Mask of the Phantasm. That was our first film that we covered, our favorite Batman film, I still think, and also other Batman ones we've covered are Batman Beyond Return of the Joker and Batman Superman World's Finest. We covered all of those and tons of other stuff in our back catalog. This month, we are beginning our 2010s Disney Summer. So if you sign up now, you just heard in the free feed a preview of our one for the 2011 Winnie the Pooh film, which is really great, and the final 2D Disney feature. And this month, we are covering Wreck-It Ralph, which, if you're a big-time gamer, I think you'll enjoy that one that we talk about. And we've done over 7 years of What a Cartoon Movies, hundreds of hours there, also ad-free, basically 3 extra podcasts a month you get when you sign up there, in addition to all the $5 ad-free stuff Bob just mentioned before. You can find all of it at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
And I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and many other places as Bob Servo. And my other podcast is called Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast about old video games. You can find that where you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts and go there, sign up for a bunch of great bonus stuff on top of our bonus stuff. And Henry, how about you?
You can find me, Henry Gilbert, on Blue Sky and Instagram as Talking Henry. I'm always posting up a storm there, certainly about our podcasts and cool, fun stuff. And if you're following me and Bob on those platforms, be sure to follow the official account of our podcast, which is at Talk Simpsons Pod. At Talk Simpsons Pod keeps you in the loop whenever new episodes of What a Cartoon or Talking Simpsons or Batman content comes out. And you will know when we have some cool announcements too if you're following at Talk Simpsons Pod on either Instagram or Blue Sky. And don't forget, all the free podcasts we've released of What a Cartoon or Talking Simpsons can be found on our official website, TalkingSimpsons.com.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll see you again next time for an extended free preview of our What a Cartoon Movie episode all about Wreck-It Ralph, and we'll see you then.
You seem to have a ding in your door, sir.
He trashed my car, Alfred. between a couple of guys, that's real personal.
Nice to see you haven't lost your sense of humor in the face of adversity.